When I couldn't drive anymore, I asked my son if I could move closer. His wife said, "We're not running an elderly hostel. Figure it out." He looked away and said, "We're too busy to deal with this." I nodded. Then I called a realtor, and what I did with my estate sent shockwaves through the family. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and also, drop a comment below. What's one life lesson you think everyone should learn before it's too late? Share your thoughts, thanks. Hi, I'm Martha. I'm 71 now, but this started when I was 68. I live in Nebraska, used to be in Lincoln, now I'm somewhere else. Doesn't matter yet. I wasn't planning to write this, but the way things went down, it's been sitting in me too long. Maybe if I say it out loud, write it down, I'll stop waking up at 3 a.m. thinking about that phone call. So here it is. I lost my husband Robert in 2019. Heart attack, sudden, brutal. 46 years married. He died in our kitchen, morning coffee still warm in his mug. After that, things got quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just empty. Too quiet. I did okay for the first year. Took care of the house, kept the garden up, paid the bills, went to church on Sundays, talked to the neighbors now and then. But my hands started giving me trouble, arthritis, and my eyes, especially at night, weren't what they used to be. I scraped a fire hydrant one evening coming home from the grocery store. That scared the hell out of me. Next day, I put the keys in Robert's old tackle box and never touched them again. That's when things got hard. I live outside Lincoln, closest grocery store is 15 minutes away. No buses, no ride shares, and you can't call a taxi around here unless you want to wait 2 hours and pay $40. So I thought, alright, maybe it's time to move. Nothing big, just something smaller, maybe a duplex near my son David. David's my only child. He lives in Omaha, 2 hours north, married to a woman named Brenda. 2 kids, big house in Benson Heights. He's a bank manager, she works part-time at a dental office. Always posting pictures of their fancy dinners and weekend trips to Kansas City. We weren't super close, but we talked, holidays, birthdays, random check-ins. After Robert died, David came to stay with me for one weekend, helped sort through some boxes. We cried a little, then life moved on. Anyway, I figured I'd call him, let him know I was thinking about moving closer. Not in with them, just nearby. I thought we'd look at some places together. I was hoping maybe he'd be happy about it. I waited until Sunday afternoon. I knew that's when Brenda usually did meal prep and they were around the house. David answered, a little distracted. "Hey Mom, everything okay?" Yeah, I'm all right. Just wanted to run something by you." "Sure, what's up?" I told him I wasn't driving anymore, that things were getting a bit hard alone, and that I was thinking about selling the house, maybe moving closer to them. He didn't answer right away. Then I heard it in the background, Brenda loud and clear, like she was standing next to me. "We're not running an elderly hostel, David. She can figure it out." My heart actually stopped for a second. I waited for him to tell her off, say something, defend me. He didn't. Instead he sighed, then in the smallest voice, "We're really swamped right now, Mom. The kids, Brenda's schedule. I don't think we can deal with this." Deal with this. Like I was a broken appliance or a leaky roof. But what I did next would teach them exactly what it meant to push family aside. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I just sat there holding the phone, looking around the living room, my old house, the walls Robert painted, the recliner he picked out. Everything suddenly felt unfamiliar. "I understand," I said. "Thanks anyway." And I hung up. The next morning, I called a real estate agent. "Hi," I said, "I'm thinking of selling. Can you come by?" Linda came over that Thursday. Early 50s, professional, didn't ask too many questions. We walked the property. She said it was in great shape, would sell fast. She was right. Within 3 weeks, I had a buyer, a young couple with twin babies, moving up from Kansas City to be closer to her parents. They paid cash. I didn't tell David I sold. Why would I? I was tired of trying to stay in someone's life where I wasn't wanted. I found a small 2-bedroom apartment in Bellevue, good neighborhood, closer to doctors, with a Walmart and a Walgreens within walking distance. Everything I needed. Then I called my lawyer. I'd had a will for years. Everything used to go to David: house, savings, my old Honda, insurance, all of it. But after that phone call, I started thinking. He'd already made his choice. So I made mine. I had my lawyer change everything. Half my estate would go to Meals on Wheels, the program that started checking on me after Robert died. The other half to a senior assistance program in Lincoln that helps people like me, people with no one. The Honda, I hadn't figured that part out yet. About 8 months passed. Life was quiet but fine. I made some friends at the community center. There was Margaret, sweet woman, widowed like me. Her nephew Jake helped me set up my new cable box once. Good kid, came by to check on me even when I didn't ask. Then one night, I had what the doctors called a mini-stroke. I don't remember much, woke up in Nebraska medicine with a nurse shining a light in my eyes. They said it was mild, caught it early, but it scared me. Made me think about how fast things can change. I stayed at the rehab facility for 10 days. When I got out, I did something I hadn't done in almost a year. I called David. He picked up. I told him what happened, that I'd had a stroke but was okay now, that I just wanted him to know. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Why didn't you call me sooner?" I didn't say what I wanted to say, that he'd already made it clear where I stood. Instead I said, "You were busy." Then I told him one more thing. "David, I changed my will. It doesn't go to you anymore." The silence on the line felt heavy. "You what?" "I've got people helping me here, people who didn't treat me like a burden. That's who's getting what I have." He started talking fast, real panic in his voice. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel cruel. I felt nothing. Just tired. He came to see me 2 weeks later. Brought flowers, sat next to me, said sorry a lot. "Mom, I didn't know how to handle Brenda. I should have stood up for you." I nodded, but I didn't say much. He left after 20 minutes. That was the last time I saw him. I still get calls sometimes. He leaves voicemails. I listen to them, but I don't call back. But I'm not done with the story yet. Because what I did next, what I planned, well, let's just say when my lawyer made the final arrangements, everyone was in for a surprise. The real shock was still coming, and it would change everything they thought they knew about me. After David's visit, things went quiet again. I went back to my routine, doctor visits, breakfast at the same IHOP community center on Wednesdays. Margaret still checked on me. Her nephew Jake started driving me to appointments, refused gas money. Just said, "You remind me of my grandma Martha." Small world. I was healing physically. Mentally though, I was carrying a weight. Not hate exactly, more like something unfinished. 3 months passed. Then came the letter. It was from Brenda, typed, not even handwritten. "Martha, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We'd like to revisit the will situation. David was very emotional during your last conversation, and I believe he may not have expressed himself clearly. We've always cared about your well-being. Let's meet for dinner at Applebee's sometime and talk about how to move forward as a family." No apology. No ownership. Just corporate-sounding nonsense. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, David called. I answered this time. "Mom," he said, "please. Brenda was out of line before. I know that. But we're trying. The kids want to see you." That part made my chest ache a little. I hadn't seen my grandchildren, Tommy and Grace, in almost 2 years. I didn't say no, but I didn't say yes either. He tried again. "We were thinking maybe you could move into one of those assisted living places near us. We could visit on weekends." I almost laughed. They wouldn't let me live near them, but now they were happy to warehouse me somewhere close, so long as they didn't have to deal with me themselves. "I'll think about it," I said. But what I actually did next was make another call to my lawyer. "Can we make the estate even tighter?" I asked. "Bulletproof it?" He said yes. We rewrote it so tight that not even a team of hungry lawyers could rip into it. I gave Jake my Honda, not in the will, just signed the title over. "You serious, Mrs. D?" he said, eyes wide. "Dead serious," I told him. "You've done more for me in 6 months than some people have in a lifetime." Margaret found out and tried to give me a casserole to say thank you. I told her she could thank me by letting me teach her how to play bridge next Thursday. Then another twist hit. I was at my apartment when I got a call from the front desk. A woman was downstairs asking to come up. She didn't give her name. I told them no. 2 hours later, someone knocked on my door. It was Brenda. No makeup, hair pulled back, looked like she hadn't slept. "I'm sorry," she said the second I opened the door. "I should have never talked to David that way about you." She stepped inside without waiting. "Martha, I'm scared. We're in trouble. David lost a lot of money on some investments. He won't admit it, but I think we're close to bankruptcy." There it was. The real reason. She tried to hug me. I didn't move. "I'm not here for money," she whispered. "I swear. I messed up." I sat down, let her talk. She cried, told me about how their house was underwater, how David had been making risky stock trades, yes, gambling with their savings, and trying to hide it under investment losses. "How much did he lose?" I asked. "Over 200,000. I let out a low whistle. She flinched. I didn't say anything for a while. I just stared out the window. Then I asked, "Did you come here to ask me for help?" She looked away. "No," she said. "Not exactly." I nodded, got up, walked to the kitchen, poured myself some sweet tea. "Brenda," I said, "I spent my whole life protecting David, giving him everything I had. When I needed help, all I asked was to be near you both. Not to live with you, not to borrow money. Just to not be so alone." She started crying again. I didn't stop her. "I don't know if I'll forgive you," I said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I know," she whispered. Then she left. But what I discovered next would prove this wasn't about guilt at all. It was about greed, and I was about to spring a trap they never saw coming. The next morning, David called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail saying he wanted to clear the air. 2 days after that, I found out something new. David was trying to contact my lawyer. He actually showed up at the firm's office and asked for a meeting to discuss family adjustments. The receptionist shut him down. My lawyer called me right after. "You were right to lock this down," he said. And now I knew for sure, this wasn't about guilt. It was about greed. But I wasn't done yet. Because I had one more idea, one more move, and it was going to make sure they never saw a dime. But they would see what they lost. 2 weeks after Brenda's visit, I got a knock on my door. It was Margaret, with a worried look on her face. "You might want to sit down," she said. "I just ran into your daughter-in-law at CVS." I raised an eyebrow. What was she doing here? "She was asking the pharmacist about your prescriptions." That hit me wrong. I never gave Brenda the name of my pharmacy, never told her anything about my medications. She hadn't visited me once while I was recovering from the stroke, but now she was suddenly concerned about my prescriptions? "She said she was checking for dangerous interactions in your meds," Margaret continued, but she wasn't subtle. It sounded more like she was digging for information. I thanked Margaret and sat with that for the rest of the afternoon. Around 6 p.m., I called my pharmacy, asked them to put a privacy lock on my file. Gave them a list of names that weren't to receive any information about me under any circumstances. David and Brenda were at the top of that list. The next day, I got a call from the building manager. He said someone had been trying to ask questions about me in the lobby, my health, if I had visitors, if I had any relatives listed in case of emergency. Didn't give her any info, he told me, but I thought you should know. They were circling. Not because they missed me, but because they were hoping I'd drop dead and leave the vault unlocked. What they didn't know is I wasn't just locking it, I was turning the damn thing into a landmine. That week, I sat down with my lawyer again. I asked him what the legal options were for leaving a video statement as part of my estate execution. He smiled and said, "Very possible." We got it all set up. We filmed it in his office, one take, no script. Just me looking into the camera. I didn't yell, I didn't insult. I just laid it out, what happened when I asked for help, what I heard Brenda say, what David didn't say, what came next, and why I made the decisions I did. And then I said this, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone, which means it's too late to pretend you cared about me when I needed you. Instead, you let your wife treat me like an old stray dog, and you turned your face away. That's why you're getting nothing. No money, no assets, no second chances. The people who showed up for me when it counted, that's where it all went. You'll get a letter. That's it. I leaned forward, looked into the camera, and said, next time someone asks you for help, I hope you think about this moment. I hope it sticks. A month later, I got a package from an unknown sender. Inside was a glossy flyer, a fancy-looking wellness center in West Omaha. Private elderly care, monthly rates in 5 figures. Fancy logo, slick pictures, and a brochure that looked more like a country club ad than a care facility. Tucked inside was a handwritten note, this could be a good place for you if you're still looking. We'd help with the deposit. David and Brenda. They didn't even sign it love. Just names. I didn't respond. Instead, I made another move. What I did next would expose them to the entire community, and the shame would follow them for years. I contacted a local news writer who runs a small column for the Omaha World Herald about elder care, family estrangement, and end-of-life planning. I told him my story, every piece of it. I left out the names, but I gave him the locations, the details, and what I did with my estate. He published it as a column called What My Son Taught Me About Dying Alone and Living on My Terms. It picked up steam, got shared on Facebook hundreds of times. The community center posted it on their bulletin board. The Meals on Wheels program printed copies for their waiting room. Jake came by and said, Mrs. D, you kind of went viral. I just nodded. Then, a week later, I got a voicemail from David. His voice was shaky. Mom, I read the article. Someone forwarded it to me. I didn't know you were going to do something like that. That told me everything. He wasn't sorry I lived it, he was upset people knew about it. I just want to talk, he said. Please call me back. I didn't. Because I wasn't done yet. I had one last surprise planned, something they never saw coming. Not just for them, but for everyone who thought they could treat elderly people like inconveniences. And once it was in motion, they were going to understand exactly what it felt like to be treated like a problem. A month after the article made the rounds, I started getting letters, emails too, though I don't use them much. Messages from strangers. Some older folks, some younger, thanking me for telling the truth, for speaking up when no one else would. One woman said her daughter stopped calling after her first hip surgery. Another man said his son only visited to ask about inheritance. It hit me how many people live through the same thing I did, forgotten, brushed off, used. That's when I made my final move. See, I never told David about the foundation. After I changed my will, I started building something with my lawyer and a friend from the community center who used to be a non-profit accountant. We created the Robert Dignity Fund, named after my late husband. It's a private charitable trust designed to support elderly people who've been abandoned by family. We made it public just a few months ago. Local press picked it up. A few radio shows called to ask if I'd do an interview. I kept it quiet until it was all finished. The kicker? We listed David and Brenda by name in the founding story. Not to humiliate, but to explain why this trust needed to exist. We told the truth. They didn't take that well. Brenda showed up at my door a week later. I could hear her crying through the door before I even opened it. Martha, please, please, I'm begging you. David's lost his job. They're going after the house. We're drowning. The kids, they don't understand what's happening. They think you're mad at them. That one stung. I loved my grandchildren, but I wasn't going to let guilt pull me back into a fire. Why are you here now? I asked. She looked up, eyes red. Because we have nowhere else to go. I nodded slowly. I opened the door wider, not to let her in, just so she could see what I looked like now. Thinner, slower, but still standing. You had someone once, I said. But when I asked to be near you, you turned away. Now you want near me because of what I have. She dropped her face into her hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. I believe you, I said. But that doesn't change the damage. Then I told her something that took every ounce of strength I had, something that would seal their fate forever. I'm making one last donation, I said. It's already been approved. $100,000 grant to a local program that helps single mothers take care of their elderly parents. Her head jerked up. Wait, what? Not for you, I said. It's for women who did what you didn't. Women who made room. She broke then, right there on my doorstep. I let her cry, but I didn't comfort her. Because my job now wasn't to save her, my job was to protect the woman I had left to be. The aftermath came quick. David filed for bankruptcy. I found out through the local court records, they're public. Their house got listed for foreclosure. Brenda had to move in with her parents, the same parents she always swore were controlling and cold. I don't celebrate their pain, but I don't feel bad either. They were never meant to be punished, they were meant to learn. And they did. I got a card from my granddaughter Grace 6 months later. Just a drawing and a note. Grandma, Mom says you're mad. I miss you. That's the one thing that broke me. I keep that card in my jewelry box. Maybe one day I'll reach out to her directly. Maybe. But not yet, because the truth is, I'm still healing. Jake visits every week. We work on crossword puzzles in my living room. Margaret brings soup when my arthritis acts up. The Meals on Wheels program named their new delivery van after Robert and me. My son and his wife lost my money. I found peace. That was the trade. And if I had to do it again, I would have called that Realtor sooner. But there's one more chapter to this story. One final twist that shows exactly what happens when you build something bigger than yourself, something that lasts beyond hurt feelings and family drama. Because what I created wasn't just about punishing them, it was about making sure no other elderly person would ever have to face what I faced alone. The Robert Dignity Fund grew faster than I ever imagined. Within 6 months, we'd helped 12 families. Not just with money, but with resources, connections, dignity. We partnered with legal aid societies to help seniors being financially abused by their children. We connected isolated elderly people with volunteer visitors. We even started a small housing program for seniors who'd been abandoned. One woman, Patricia, came to us after her daughter kicked her out when she could no longer contribute to household expenses. We helped her find a small apartment and connected her with a part-time job at the local library. She's thriving now, has made friends, even started dating again. Another man, George, reached out after his son tried to put him in a substandard nursing home so he could sell George's house. We helped him find good legal representation and a better living situation. He kept his independence and his dignity. The stories kept coming. Each one reminded me why I made the choices I did. Jake graduated college last year, business degree. He asked if he could work for the foundation part-time while he looks for a career job. I said yes immediately. Margaret serves on our volunteer board now, helps screen applicants and organize events. We started hosting monthly dinners at the community center. Family dinners, we call them, for people who don't have family that cares. They're some of the best evenings of my week. 40 to 50 people, all ages, sharing stories, laughing, building the kind of connections that should exist naturally but somehow don't anymore. The local newspaper ran a follow-up story on our 1-year anniversary. The headline was "When Family Fails, Community Steps In." They interviewed several people we'd helped, talked about the growing problem of elder abandonment, featured pictures from our family dinners. I was proud, but I was also tired. The foundation work, while fulfilling, took energy I didn't always have. My health had its ups and downs. Some days were better than others. Then, 8 months ago, I got a call I wasn't expecting. It was Grace, my granddaughter. She was 16 now, had gotten my number somehow. "Grandma Martha?" Her voice was shaky, nervous. "It's Grace. I know things are complicated, but I miss you. I don't really understand what happened with Mom and Dad, but I just wanted to hear your voice." I cried. Right there on the phone, I cried. We talked for an hour. She told me about school, about her friends, about how she wanted to study social work in college. She said she'd been reading about the foundation online, that she was proud of what I was doing. "Maybe," she said carefully, "maybe we could meet for coffee sometime? Just us." We did. 2 weeks later, at a small cafe in Bellevue. She's beautiful, looks just like her grandfather Robert. We talked about everything except her parents. She hugged me when we left, said she wanted to see me again. We've been meeting once a month since then. She's applied to the University of Nebraska for social work. She says she wants to help people like I have. I'm helping her with college expenses, not through the family, through the foundation. She's earning it through volunteer work. David doesn't know. Brenda doesn't know. Grace asked me not to tell them yet. She's still living with them, still navigating that relationship. I respect her choice. Last month, something remarkable happened. The foundation received a large anonymous donation, $50,000. The note simply said, "From someone who wishes they'd had this resource when their own family failed them." We used part of it to hire a part-time social worker. The rest went into our emergency fund for people in crisis situations. I'm 71 now, and I think about legacy differently than I used to. It's not about who gets your money when you die. It's about what you build while you're alive, what continues after you're gone, how many lives you touch. The Robert Dignity Fund will outlive me. Jake is learning the business side, Margaret understands the heart of it, and we have a board of people who believe in the mission. We've helped over 100 people now. We've prevented homelessness, stopped financial abuse, created community where there was isolation. My son and his wife? They're still struggling. David found work eventually, but at a much lower salary. They're renting a small house now, trying to rebuild. I hear things through Grace, though she doesn't say much. I don't hate them anymore. I don't love them either, not the way I used to. They're just people who made choices. The consequences were their teacher, not me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if David had stood up to Brenda that day. If he'd said, "Mom, of course you can move closer. We'll help you find a place." If they'd made room for me in their lives instead of treating me like an inconvenience. But then I look at what grew from that pain, the foundation, the lives we've touched, the community we've built, and I think maybe things happened exactly as they were supposed to. I wake up most mornings with purpose now. Not bitterness, not anger, but purpose. There's work to do, people to help, connections to build. I'm not just Martha, the abandoned mother. I'm Martha, the woman who turned her pain into something that matters. And if I had to do it all again, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every hard choice, I would. Because what I built from the ashes of my broken family turned out to be stronger and more meaningful than what I lost. That's the thing about dignity. Once you decide to claim it, once you refuse to let others define your worth, you discover you're capable of more than you ever imagined. The phone doesn't ring with desperate calls anymore. The foundation runs itself mostly. Grace visits when she can. Margaret and Jake are like family now, the kind that chooses to show up. And when I lay my head down at night, I don't think about that awful phone call anymore. I think about Patricia laughing at last week's dinner. I think about George sending me pictures of his garden. I think about Grace's excited texts about her college plans. I think about Robert, and how proud he'd be of what his name has come to represent. I sleep well these days. Finally, I sleep well.